Hi class, in this video I am going to go over the instructions for the resume and cover letter assignment. So basically, in case you're not familiar with what a resume or a cover letter are, a resume is a document that outlines your contact information, your educational background, as well as your work experience. And sometimes it also contains information such as certifications, skills, honors, references, things like that. And usually jobs require that because it offers a snapshot of your experience, like I said, educational and work experience. So basically it lets them know whether or not you meet the educational requirements to have that job, but also whether you have relevant work experience. The cover letter usually is submitted along with a resume, and it discusses that information a little bit more in detail. The resume should typically be about 1 page, and it just lists your information. So the formatting a lot of the times is in bullet form, and obviously you are listing information. But with the cover letter, you write the cover letter as an actual letter in paragraphs, so you can go into a little bit more detail regarding your work experience and things like that. Now the cover letter, again, typically they recommend that it's about 1 page long, but sometimes there are jobs where you really have to go into depth. Like for example, with teaching you really do have to talk about like your teaching philosophy. Sometimes they ask you for details about assignments, things you've done outside of the classroom, how well you work with colleagues. So some jobs will require for you to go into a little bit more detail, and those letters of course will be longer. But it's important to keep in mind that in those fields they won't reprimand you for having a longer cover letter, because it's actually expected to have a longer cover letter because they want details about a lot of things. So in any case, the resume, so obviously you're going to write your information. Like for example, if you get a master's degree from NMSU, that is something that you have to include regardless of what job you apply for. That's not something that's going to change. However, depending on the criteria they are looking for, you might want to emphasize certain things more with specific jobs. Like for example, if the nurse job says we're looking for somebody who has leadership skills and communication skills, then basically what that means is that when you write your resume and cover letter, you really want to emphasize your leadership and communication skills, because that is one of the criteria that they are looking for. So like I said, make sure that you include the ad along with your resume and letter. So once you have the job, you're ready to start your resume and letter, like I mentioned before. And here are some things that you want to consider when you're writing that letter. When you're writing that letter, you should think about, why would this person hire you? Basically, you are going in with this complete stranger and you're trying to show them that you are the right person for this job. So here are some questions that you should consider. Also, keep in mind that the letter should reflect your enthusiasm and passion. You want to make sure that you show that you really want this job because you care about this position and you are committed to helping people or whatever the job entails. So you really want to show that, convey that through the letter. Something else that I want to show you is the rubric. So if you look at the rubric, it tells you what the requirements are for the resume as well as the letter. So you can go ahead and look at the rubric so that you can see how points will be distributed. Now, to help you write this letter and resume, you can go to the week 1 module, and there I have more information about resumes and things like that. So if we visit the first page that follows the instructions, here we have a printable version. So if you're one of those people that you like to print out your assignment sheets so that you can underline them and highlight them, you can go ahead and print it out here. Next, we have a resume workshop PowerPoint. I really strongly suggest that you visit this because this shows you how to write a resume and it takes you step by step by step. So if you go ahead and take a look, it shows you how to begin. And of course, you begin with your, it also tells you about the formatting and the length, but it tells you to start off, well, it gives you an example, but it guides you. See, the first thing is the contact information, and then after that, it gives you an example. And then it moves on to the next section, which is the objective statement. And it gives you an example as well. I should point out that modern resumes don't use objectives anymore. They use what we call a summary, which is, it focuses more on the applicant as opposed to the job. But for this resume, we are going to write an objective, so you don't have to worry about a summary. So here we have examples of an objective. Your resume should have an objective. If there is no objective, the person won't know what you're applying for. And then the next section is education, and it tells you what you need to include there, and it also gives you an example. So this PowerPoint is extremely helpful when it comes to writing the resume, so I strongly suggest that you look that over. And over here we have a chapter on cover letters, so again, I strongly suggest that you read that over. And then next, I believe we have an example of a cover letter. And as you can see right here, actually no, here we have, well, we have a sample outline on how to write a cover letter. At minimum, your cover letter could be 3 paragraphs, right? And it tells you what each paragraph should include. So I really encourage you to read this handout when you are writing the cover letter. And then we have the example of the cover letter and job ad. So in the cover letter, that's really where you're going to emphasize and highlight the criteria from the job ad. So basically, like I mentioned earlier, if the job is saying that you need really good leadership skills and really good communication skills, in your letter is where you emphasize that. The resume is mostly for like listing like the basic information, like job experience, educational experience, licenses, certifications, you know, things like that, skills. But in the letter, that's when you can really go into detail and you can really talk about, look, this is why I have really good leadership skills, because I have done this and I have done that. It's really important that you provide examples so that people can see, okay, this is her leadership style. This is an example of what makes her or him a good leader. So in the letter, you actually want to put examples, and you really want to emphasize that you meet the criteria that the job ad mentioned. So in this example, I highlighted some keywords that are found in the job advertisement. So as you can see, it's important to maybe, if you can, print out the job advertisement, highlight keywords, and then you can go ahead and use those in your letter. Obviously, you don't have to highlight them for this assignment. I'm just saying that in essence, your letter should highlight some of those keywords used in the job advertisement, because basically you want people to see the connection. And here I have a handout that I use for my face-to-face classes. Obviously, this is not a requirement for this assignment, but I think it helps you get started on your resume, and I think it's a good tool. In my face-to-face classes, I've used it for kind of like brainstorming to get started on the resume writing. So I feel like maybe if you want to, you can go ahead and use it. So this concludes our video over the resume and cover letter PowerPoint. As I mentioned before, the instructions are in the week 1 module, and this assignment is worth 100 points, which means that the resume is 50 points and the cover letter is also 50 points, and they are going to be submitted together along with the job ad as one assignment. And here you can go ahead and see the rubric so that you can see how the 50 points for each assignment is attributed. So 50 points for the resume and 50 points for the cover letter. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I think the resume and cover letters are a good first assignment because it's essentially about ourselves. But if you don't have a lot of experience, that could be a little bit tricky. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I think the hardest thing with the resume is formatting. So make sure you look at that PowerPoint so that it shows you how to format the resume. With a cover letter, I think the biggest issue people have is development. They don't develop it enough, or they develop it too much. So again, go ahead and look at the handout so you know what kind of details to include. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them.